Second one, we'll get you running. I was trying to check on that for you. Well, good morning, everybody, and Merry Christmas to everyone as we're getting ready for this season. And it is one heck of a year so far. I think, Jamie, did you just pop in? Oh, actually, no. We have Ephraim Perry here. Did I see you, Ephraim? Uh-oh, he just popped off. Well, I'm glad to have him if he's available to join us. All right, real quick. Merry Christmas to everybody. I will get the show on the road, as they say. I'm Dave Lowe. I'm the CEO of isiFederal. And with us, we will have Jamie Zell, most likely. He might be having the same problem that Heather and I did trying to dial in on the phone. So hopefully we can make that happen. So if he can make it with us, that'd be great. The numbers that matter most are 286 and 651. We'll get to those shortly to let you know what they are if you don't know what they are already. If you have any questions, you can pop open the right-hand side and ask us, and you can chat. You can ask us questions in the bottom side as well. And also enter your PIN so that we can unmute you if you did happen to make it in on the phone call. And if not, then you don't need to enter your PIN because you'll be using your microphone on your computer. So if you don't have one, we can chat and make sure that everything works the best we can. This series is for GSA schedule holders. So almost everybody here today will have GSA schedules already, or they will be becoming GSA schedule holders. This is to help identify obstacles to your success, and there are plenty of them, as you know. Gaining exposure out there in the federal market, giving you some insider information and access to resources. And hopefully we'll have some folks here for that if they can get in. A little bit about us and the rest of the sponsors. isiFederal is in the business development world. We help to help small businesses win federal contracts, just to be straight up and clear. We start with intelligence, knowing something about the marketplace. We'll get into some of that in a little bit. We provide marketing services. This can include assistance in some of the grunt work that's out there, or managing your team to make sure that they're going in the right direction. We can provide dedicated representation here in Washington, D.C. and other places now. That includes feet on the street, where we're knocking on doors and going in and physically meeting with people. And as you know, that's the way to go. In order to be able to win federal business, you got to be out in front of people. And GSAproposal.com, if Jamie, he's not here yet, so I will talk about him while he's gone. They do proposal development and management, and that can include also helping you either with new schedules or sweetening up the one that you got, because sometimes those suckers get moldy and they actually have wrong information in them. So being able to help you out in that vein as well. So They can help you with your whole GSA submission process, and we highly recommend that you reach out to Jamie. They have the best pricing on the planet, and they have a 100% success track record in getting GSA schedules. They just do not stop. And more recently, I met up with Sean. He runs Revolution Payments, and this is merchant card services. And the reason why I love this is because he understands the federal government. And in most instances, when you're dealing, especially with commoditized markets, and we have several different clients that do commodities, and you know that the margins are pretty thin already. So hang on a sec, let me get rid of that. So if you're giving away, 2.5%, 3%, sometimes even better than 3% on your merchant card services, you can be giving away a hefty chunk of your profits, especially when you start to factor in some of those early payment discounts that you give to GSA. So these are the types of ways that we can help you save money, and we really recommend that you reach out to these guys if you have not already, because they understand how government works. I don't know how all these pieces work, but they have large ticket rates below 1.5% and even below 1% when you get into some of the really large ticket items. And lower fees across the board. We've implemented them with several of our clients, and they are very, very happy with that. So why are we here today? And so we ask folks that are out there, let's see, Jared, if you knew how to leverage your GSA schedule, love it. Mandy, it helped increase sales. Patricia, we have leads for a teaming partner. Great, love that. For Sid, if I get sales. David, if it led to successful opportunities, not just theory, love that. And Chris, if I get insight on how to identify, contact purchasing officers who don't advertise their opportunities. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about some of those things as well. There's a common theme here, and it all revolves around getting more business, and there's a reason for this, because we all know that this is an enormous market where we have over $500 billion in sales, 2.5 million contracts, and if you want a really interesting statistic about that, 2.5 million contracts, if you go to FedBizOps and look at up how many they publicize, not many of those actually hit there. 23% are set aside for small businesses. They buy everything under the sun all over the world, in fact. There's 85,000 buyers and 470 agencies, and they are the #1 customer in the world, with $115 billion of this being set aside for small businesses. And I know most of the folks that are on this call are probably small businesses. We do some work with some of the big boys, but we also really concentrate on helping the small businesses, and we'll show you how that works. So, does the government buy what you sell? You know that this is true. We know that it's absolutely true. So how is it that it's so hard to get some of that money? Because guess what? This is typical for GSA schedule holders. In fact, there's 20 to 22,000 active GSA schedule holders at any given time. Now, 7,000 and 9,000 of those have no sales. So, sure, some of those are new. Some of those are new folks that are coming on. We know that it's a 5-year plan, and then you get extensions on your GSA schedule, et cetera, et cetera. You all know this stuff. But 15 to 2,500 don't meet the 25K every year. And 10 to 12,000 split the rest of that $35 to $40 billion that's actually booked on federal contracts. If you take a look at that, that's not a real. It's a good chunk of the pieces for the $500 billion. But even so, not everything goes through GSA, as we know. But 80% of the new schedule holders are going to lose their contracts, and that includes the folks on this call. There's nothing different about what you're doing and everybody else is doing that's going to create that. And we'll tell you why this is. First, GSA schedules do not make money fall from the sky. You have got to go out and get those sales. It's just a ticket to the dance. It's not going to make anything happen. Most point-and-click stuff, even when you're getting things from GSA Advantage, let's look at the point-and-click kind of stuff. That's not where you're going to be making your money. You're going to make your money by going out after these folks. And the reason why this is such a challenge is most entrepreneurs apply arbitrary timelines to going out and getting this. And they apply arbitrary dollars or don't budget at all. They don't know how to measure success before the money starts to roll in, and they try and use inexperienced or underperforming resources, the ones that are on your staff, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And they don't have the intestinal fortitude to persevere through the process. And when you apply an arbitrary timeline of 6 months, 12 months, even 18 months, may be not enough time for you to be able to do this. The federal government is wired against newcomers, and most folks on this call are probably newcomers. Some of you may be expanding into the market, but a lot of folks are newcomers, and it's a complicated market. It's different than what's out there for any other place. The system is counterintuitive, and that includes the information that you're getting from SBA, the OSDBOs that are out there, and, oh, by the way, the big place where you go, FBO, where they send you, only accounts for 4 to 6% of the total opportunities, and 75% of those are baked before they land on FedBizOps. What we mean by baked is somebody has already influenced that RFP before it got there. And rule number 1 there is if you didn't do it, then your competitors did. Somebody is making and influencing those RFPs. They're helping to write the scope. That leaves 1.2% of the total market for your products and services. That's the total market for your products and services to the default answer, and that would be price. That's why everything is driven down to price on FedBizOps and the other places, FedBid and other places. Can't stand it. But looking at these things, driving things down into the price range, and we've got to get away from that if we want to be successful. And the way to be successful is federal business development, and it's hard work. It takes a long time, and it's expensive. I'm not here to blow sunshine. I'm here to tell you the truth about what happens in the marketplace. And the fact is, if it were fast, easy, and cheap, everyone would be able to do it. And instead, 80% of GSA schedule holders would fail, and 90%, better than 90% of the folks that try to get into the federal government will fail. The reason being is that it's not fast, it's not easy, and it's not cheap, and most willingly allow their schedules to just disappear. And that is a crime, because you spend a lot of time to get it there. So is it worth it? And let's talk about the risks that are associated with going into the federal government. I have one of my favorite quotes here. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. And if you don't know who had this quote, it's a guy just marginally successful, and that's Warren Buffett. And here we have a guy who has blown everything up that he touches, made a goal. Well, most of the things. Every once in a while, he gets one that flops, but in most instances, the man knows what he's doing, and he knows how to manage risks. And we're going to be talking about how to mitigate those risks and pulling from the 12 steps to winning. These are excerpts from a new book that I've written, and that's like giving birth. I don't know what giving birth's like, but my goodness, if it's anything like this, or for crying out loud, I spent the last weekend doing a NASA soup proposal, and my goodness, what a heck of a thing that was. So all this revolves around the 12 steps of winning federal business, and we're going to go through it step by step. And step one is getting smart about the marketplace. You need to identify what's happening in your area of the market. Not everything. We've talked about the big market being $500 billion. Yes, we know that. But what about your stuff? What about is happening there? Who are your real competitors in the federal space? Guess what? Chances are they're not the people that you think they are. And identifying the key contacts that are responsible for what you sell. And we call this the who that matters to you. And I know it's not Dr. Seuss, but the who that matters to you it's a concept that just applies to the people that matter the most to you for contracting. The second step is to develop your federal strategy. You need to have your path laid out for you so you can tell what's happening. And when you're developing your strategy, everything revolves around September. In most industries, every once in a while you find one like produce or something that happens because produce is grown in the summertime, right? But in most instances, everything is going to revolve around September. Now, why is that? Because contracts increase 200 to 1,200%, depending on your industry. We saw one recently that was 1,200% over the average monthly. So we're talking about almost all the business happening in September in those instances. And this is a classic for facility support. A lot of things happen under facility support. And here's it's a great market in the facilities world. Now, a big warning, getting back to those arbitrary timelines. You cannot define how long it takes to get into your market. The market will define how long it takes. If you don't have the intestinal fortitude to make it through that 18, 24 months, 36 months sometimes if you're doing it yourself, you will fail. You cannot apply arbitrary timelines, and we'll show you why. Here's MCOR, large, huge company in the facilities maintenance space, right? Here they are, they're plodding along, blah, 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 and all of a sudden they apply resources in the late 90s. And then you see their breakout in September. And guess what? All of these spikes, whammo, all of those are September. Look at the trends on that. Still trending up, right? Even with sequestration, all the rest of this stuff. This is a very successful company in the federal space, and you can replicate what they do. And if you take a look, they kept applying resources, and they really broke out in the mid 2000s. And there's a reason why GSA gives you 2 years to make 25 grand, because it takes 2 years. And we're not in it for 25 grand, right? You didn't do this to just minimally get through and eat by so that you can keep your GSA schedule. You got it so that you can make it a significant component of your overall business strategy to enhance the value of your business, potentially even to use it as part of your exit strategy by winning federal contracts that are very, very valuable when doing evaluations, right? So we're not in this for 25 grand, but there's a reason why GSA gives you 2 years, because it takes a lot of time to develop federal business. It doesn't happen overnight, and GSA schedules don't make money fall from the sky, as I said. And if you wait until May to try to get into this year's September money, it's too late. Because guess what? If you do that, you're missing out on some of the best business development months. December through February are some of the best months for business development. They're terrible for sales. Terrible. But we're not talking about sales. We're talking about what leads to true winnable opportunities. Winnable opportunities come from your business development efforts and building those relationships. And if you haven't started already, you are 3 months behind your competitors. So, step 3, you have to establish a budget. And I'm not talking about just throwing a few dollars at this and throwing some time at it. You need to make sure. We just spent literally hundreds of hours on the soup proposal for one of our clients that was submitted yesterday, and it got extended, but yesterday at 2 o'clock. And they were making changes up until yesterday to get that thing tight. And it was very, very expensive to do. And it was fast, easy, and cheap. Everyone would be able to do this. And the fact is it's not. And if you're not willing to do that, you cannot win in the federal space. Don't apply arbitrary dollars. I can tell you that it costs about $150,000 a year on average for successful companies to be able to break through that barrier in 2 years. There's some ways to be able to trim that, certainly, but you've got to invest the money. Look at what works. The people that have actually done it right in your industry and budget accordingly. Do what they do. We have a budget resource allocation worksheet. It's for free. You can go to isiFederal and go get it, and I will get that for you if you like. The step 4 is to prepare. Develop your capability statement. We've gone through this on some other presentations. One-page slick so that you're out there, and a secondary one to get things working. Government-centric marketing materials, taking all the business ease out of your marketing materials and making it very government-concentric, as opposed to being, talking about profits and things like that. They don't care about those things. You need to have those pieces there. Even and another part of that is a federal landing page, so that people can go right to your federal stuff. They don't have to go through all your business noise. A contract vehicle, you already have your GSA, but you have to look at other contract vehicles as well and grow your contract vehicle portfolio. And a lot of that can be based on your GSA schedule and your GSA schedule numbers. BPAs, IDIQs that can be created within agencies. These are the things that you need in order to be able to be successful. There's the federal website landing page. Got ahead of myself. And updating your SAM records, making sure that your information is correct in SAM. So often you do a submission, and then all of a sudden we find that the SAM records are out of date, and then guess what? They pull it and give it to somebody else. We've had that happen in our favor 4 times. 4 times in September, we won because their SAM records were not updated. So don't be one of those folks. Get in there and update those records. It doesn't cost that much, right? You also are going to need a CRM or some kind of tracking process to control and to maintain your 6 degrees of separation as you start to talk to these different people and they start referring you to different places. And these are the folks that you got to keep track of in order to be able to be successful. So be prepared and set your goals and objectives. Set them reasonably, but make sure you set them and then measure yourself against them. And don't give up, don't give in, but make sure that you have those goals and objectives there so that you can figure out what's happening there. Step 5, dedicate resources to your effort. This does not happen without doing things and having people actually physically doing things. These are people that are not usually on your staff. They have to have some federal expertise. And here's what happens a lot of times. I'll talk about this first. Commission only does not work. You cannot go out and say, okay, we're going to pay you after you win. Well, guess what? If it takes you 18 to 24 months, nobody's got the pockets to do that. I don't do it. I will not do it on commission. The reason being is because somebody's got to invest in your federal strategy and make it worthwhile. And if you're not going to do it, if you don't have confidence in it, I'm certainly not going to do it. So commission only doesn't work. You got to ride the right horse. And here's what happens in most instances. Think about this. I've seen it multiple times where you have your ace on staff who's getting your commercial work. You're not going to give it to your ace because you're not going to tie him up with 18 or 24 months, him or her, up with 18 or 24 months worth of business development. You're not going to tie them up. You're not going to give it to your steady eddies either, because your income is going to be tremendously affected from your commercial side. So what happens is people look at their staff and they say, well, let's give it to this person. They're really not performing here, so maybe they'll do better over here. So you're going to give them the most complicated business world, the most complicated market. You're going to give it to somebody who's not performing, who doesn't have any federal expertise. And this is one of the main reasons why they fail. And then if you do go out, you find somebody, they got a long history and track record, but you can't even figure out if they really know what they're doing, because you don't know if you're riding the right horse. So this is kind of the essence of the resources. Got to have the resources that know what they're doing and have the history of being able to perform in the marketplace and have a plan to be able to get you there. So that's that. Step 6, building those relationships. The fact is, people buy from people they like. It doesn't change in the federal space any more than it does in the commercial space. There's a lot of hoops that you got to jump through. There's things that you have to deal with. But your job is to find them and get them to like you. It's that simple as far as a phrase. Find the people, the who that matter to you, and get them to like you. Right? Here's how we do it. You have to find those key decision makers, and we talked about it before, the who that matter to you, and we'll talk a little bit more about it as we move through this. The key decision makers. I call these decision clusters, because in most instances, you've got 3 people that are involved in small business purchases. They all have different roles and different needs that you need to give them. And they have different buying motives and different reasons for making their decisions. And here are who these folks are. We have the project manager, program manager. They drive the initiatives, and we see these things coming down sometimes from the President of the United States. Sometimes they're agency-oriented initiatives. We see a lot of green environmental stuff that's still hot. Cloud computing, huge right now. Security is always big. Cost cutting, cost savings, kind of a double-edged sword in the federal space. And the political things. How much more political can you get than healthcare in the federal space? It doesn't get any more political, and it is enormous right now. And we see the ramifications of when things don't work exactly the way that they're supposed to, even when you're spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars on it, right? So these folks, they look for new ideas and new technology. They're not cutting edge. They're not bleeding edge by any stretch. So they're a little behind the curve on the commercial side. But in comparison to the commercial side, I should say, but they are looking for new things. And these are the folks that are looking for what differentiates you in the marketplace. They are influenceable, and this includes being able to influence the scope. Where do you think they come up with the ideas to be able to put into the scope? They come from people like you and me. We're the ones that are influencing that scope and giving them what's necessary, the requirements, sometimes the capabilities, certifications that are necessary. How many times do you see certifications as a requirement in an RFP? You see those all the time. It's because somebody's in there saying, hey, this is important, and guess what? The contracting officer doesn't want to have to review 50 competitors any more than you want 50 competitors, right? They want to be able to pair people. They want to push people away. They want to put the bar at a level that they'll be able to meet the criteria for being competitive, but making sure they only have a select few or the ones that they really want. So their job is to get the job done right, and your job is to tie in with the initiatives and help them look good. One of those is revolved around understanding their business. We did a thing about the Harvard Business Review that they put out many, many years ago about what they're looking for, getting into their world, understanding their business. If you understand their business, what it is that they need, and tie it in with their initiatives, you're getting ahead of the curve and being able to say, all right, this applies to this particular program, and this area, right? So, and the other part is a core human piece. Help them look good. Give them props, and your approach can help with that too. The technical representative. Now, this is an interesting person. This is COTAR, CORE. They have different names depending on the agencies. They're busy, or at least think they are. They usually report to the PM, but they bridge the gap between the project manager, program manager, and the contracting officer. We'll talk about the contracting officer in just a minute. They're generally more risk-averse because they're lower down in the organization, and they assist in just assembling the information and making sure that it is technically in line with what they're trying to accomplish, okay? And you can help them with certifications, as we said before, and they assist in the mandatory requirements, which could include looking at some of the government standards and other components. Your job, help them with the requirements and help them look good. Your contracting officers, they're busy, or at least think they are. They will not teach you how to do business with them. They'll know right away whether or not you understand their world, and you can put some checks and balances in there when they try to blow you off by knowing what their world is all about. And one of the ways that we do it is, hey, we talk about, they'll say, hey, we put stuff up on FedBizOps. Say, great, well, we're always looking at FedBizOps, right? But what about the ones that are less than $25,000? What do you do with those? And if they say we put those on FedBizOps too, they're probably lying to you. They don't. So what they're saying to you is, hey, guess what? You haven't really deserved being able to tell you the inside track for me. And that's okay, because we're going to stay on you like forever until you retire, and even then we may utilize you. So they won't teach you about your business. They are risk averse. They don't like new things. They're experts in moving paper, and this is not to diminish their job. This is so that you understand what their job is and know that these are the folks that are responsible for executing millions and millions and millions of dollars in your space. So understand that just because they're experts in moving paper does not make them less important. In fact, in some instances, they are the primary decision maker for what you sell. So what we want to do is help them with their execution of moving that paper. And a GSA schedule is one way to do that. 8A, another way. Women-owned, another way. Disabled veteran-owned, another way. And IDIQs, BPAs, other contract vehicles are other ways. So they select the purchasing mechanism. This is important to know because they're going to be the ones that are going to decide whether it goes to full and open competition, whether it's going to be set aside for small business, whether it's going to be set aside to some other category, socioeconomic category, or something else. They may decide to just compete it between 3 different GSA schedule holders. And they probably know which one they want, so they'll compete it between 3 GSA schedule holders that have that schedule but don't have those particular capabilities at hand. So these are the ones that are very, very important because they develop those contract documents. Sometimes they administer the contract post-award so that you can build a very strong relationship with them. They want the fastest way to purchase. They got piles and piles of paper on their desk. Sequestration makes it very, very difficult for them because they don't have budget. And here they have piles of these requirements that people want things and they can't fulfill. So they pile up on their desk. So they want the fastest way to move those things off their desk. So easy is good. Make it easy for them and make them feel valued. And I've revolve around that bottom one all day long. When I'm working with these folks, my primary job, my primary focus is to breathe life into these folks. A lot of these folks, we talked about this last year a couple different times with the 3-letter words that everybody, it just makes you shudder. And the 3-letter words are DMV. If you think about going to the Department of Motor Vehicles, that's how a lot of times that seeps into our brain about how we treat and how we look at government workers, right? And this stuff infects our mind. It affects the way that we operate. And as a result, we wind up diminishing the value of the people that we're talking to and not even knowing it. It happens subconsciously. So what we do and what I do is I breathe life into these folks, and it makes the biggest difference in the world. Whether they have any, they can't buy anything right now anyway. They don't have any money. So just talk with them. Find out how the shutdown affected them, what kind of grief they went through, that kind of stuff. Finding out about this time of year, with whether they're doing anything with the holidays, and just getting to know them, building the relationship. That's what this is all about, is building those relationships. So making them feel valued. So in building those relationships, your overall objective is to get ahead of the RFP. Whatever the purchasing mechanism is, in fact, you want to get ahead of it. And so in building those relationships, you can help guide it. You can help facilitate. It may take 6 months for you to facilitate from the time you start talking about a particular opportunity to the time where you have effectively positioned yourself as the number one person in that account. Using your network, networking with people, going out, meeting new people, getting in front, and stalking. I was talking with some folks this month about ethical stalking. Guy Timberlake, we were talking about it at breakfast the other day, talking about ethical stalking and utilizing industry days to get in front of the right people, and knowing that, a lot of times with industry days, did you know that you can actually drive people to the industry day? If you already are talking with people, it gives you time, FaceTime with them. You may not have a relationship yet, but you know who they are. You've been talking with them for several months, and you're saying, hey, I'm going to be at your industry day. I'd love to meet you face to face, and we could chat for a few minutes. Come on down. I have some freebies, giveaways, those kind of things that we do at the tables, and invite them. And believe it or not, it actually does work. The other way is sub to prime, developing those team relationships, as was mentioned earlier. So these are ways for you to be able to develop those relationships so that you can get in front of those people. And the biggest thing in doing this is being the exception. So many folks are doing the same thing. What you got? 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 It's not about what they got for you. It's what do you have, and how do you breathe life into them? Being exceptional to them. Being somebody that stands out and being different. Some of that is just perseverance. Because if you pick up the phone 2 or 3 times and they don't have anything for you in 3 or 4 months, a lot of times those folks just stop calling. I've had several people that said, you've been calling me for 6 months, now I'm going to give you a chance. And that was the criteria. Their criteria was just call me for 6 months and I'll know that you're not in it for the quick hit. So that's why sometimes it just takes forever to get in. Sometimes I've had folks that have said over 18 months where I've been calling them faithfully over 18 months and trying to get to them, and finally they caved and let me in. And those are the things and the reason why is because the folks that we're talking about here control millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars annually for what we sell. So quick, the steps 1 through 6, review the 12 steps to winning. Get smart about your marketplace. Get an understanding about what's happening for you, your competitors, what's happening out there. Develop your federal strategy. Get your head around what it's going to take and the resources that are going to be necessary so that you can establish that budget and so that you can apply the resources that are necessary to go out for that. Getting prepared, making sure that you have all your ducks in a row with your capability statement, all your stuff is ready to go, your SAM record's updated, dedicating the right resources. Critical to your success. Making sure that you have the people that you can reach out to. They don't have to be on staff. We do it outside. We act like we're on staff a lot of times. In fact, the conversations we have with our clients, and I have my name on their business card, so I look like I'm on staff, right? So dedicating the right resources, building relationships with all of the stakeholders, making sure that you know where they fall in the food chain as you're going after these folks. Very, very important. So what can you do right now? What's the roadmap for this minute of what it is that you can do? First, you've got to get smart about the marketplace, and it revolves around the who that matters to you. And I'd love to make up something that goes with thing 1 and thing 2. Very, very cool. Identifying your marketplace. This is how we do it. This is how we look at the marketplace. In this instance, I think this is security components, IT security components, $9.4 billion. You think there's a market in security? This is annually, by the way. If you take a look, this happens to be a little bit older data from June 2010 to June 2011, but this is a year. This is unbelievable amounts of money. The average contract is $234,000. Now, we know that there's a bunch of those that are big, and there's a ton of them that are smaller. And that's where we want to go after. Now, we're going to talk about that a little bit, because take a look at this. We have computer science corporations. Total wins is $248 million in 1 year in IT security alone. CSCI is obviously much larger than that, as you know, but $248 million in IT security. Guess what? You can't have this market. It is not yours to take. You can't have probably any of that because it's stacked with billion-dollar corporations. The big money is in this. They're deep and wide in the federal space. They have relationships that you just cannot compete against. You cannot compete against these folks. So where is your sweet spot? That's got to be the question that you've got to answer. Where is my sweet spot? Let's take a look at this now. Same information, except now we're flipping it and we're looking at it by the number of contracts. Okay? So we have 34.8 million, almost $35 million BPSI. You may know who they are by now, but probably not unless you're playing in their space. But they booked $35 million. The largest was $740,000. Why is this important? Because the big boys that we were just talking about, the CSCs, the SAICs, they're not even looking at this. They're not even looking at opportunities that are $740,000. They're booking millions. A friend of mine used to run the division for Deloitte that went into the Navy. And he had 45 people on staff. They just sold to the Navy. Talk about deep and wide. They're deep and wide in Deloitte, right? Used to run that. He didn't concentrate on anything that was less than $2 million. Their threshold was $2 million. Now, it kind of crept down as things got a little bit tighter, kind of crept down toward the $1 million mark. But if it was less than that, it wasn't worth their resources to track. And that's why we look at people that are doing things in the government so that we can emulate what they do. Let's take a look at a couple of other ones because we're getting closer, right? A couple of other ones here. 174 contracts for $5.9 million. Nice. 150 contracts for $2.3 million. Real nice. And here's the deal. Take a look at the largest here. The largest, 166,000, 274, 775,000. Under the radar contracts, for sure. The average of these, when you average them all out, 33,000, almost 34, and 15,000. But the fact of the matter is, if you're booking 150 contracts at 15,000 and change, you're booking almost $2.5 million. Let's just say $2 million. That's real money. That's real good money. And because the average is so low, we know that some of those might even be micro purchases, right? So these are the places. These are where we can find the contracts and the true competitors for where they fit in your sweet spot. Have you heard of these folks? Probably not. You probably don't even know who these guys are. Yet, they booked 324 federal contracts and put $8.2 million in the bank between those two companies. So when we're talking about these folks with your sweet spot, these guys got the sweet spot. They're hitting it over and over and over again. It's a beautiful thing. And guess what? These are your tax dollars. And if it doesn't bother you that some of your competitors are putting your tax dollars in their bank account, you ought to just stop listening. Stop. Just stop. Because that stuff drives me crazy when I think about my competitors cashing my tax dollars. Unbelievable. Then we start talking about the agencies that fit your sweet spot. Sure, we know about the big boys. But remember, the same thing applies with the large agencies with a lot of money, is that they have formidable competitors that are there that are sweeping it up. They're cleaning up in there because they are deep and wide. Just like I said about Deloitte with 45 people that just sell to the Navy, they are deep and wide for those larger contracts. You can't get in there. CMS, huge right now in security. Huge. Can't be bigger with all the stuff with healthcare. So let's look other places. Food and nutrition, maritime. Look at these. Do you even know about the Millennium Challenge Corporation or the Office of Thrift Supervision? Probably not. But yet, they're still booking. Some of those are booking tens of millions of dollars. And this is lower hanging fruit. Easier to get to. They're not getting peppered like the rest of the guys. Because if you listen to what SBA tells you to do and what GSA tells you to do, they tell you to pick a couple of agencies and penetrate those agencies. I say, no. Go after where the money is. Find the people that are responsible for buying what you sell. Let that dictate what your strategy is. Because if you go after some of these sub-agencies that aren't hitting the radar screen for everybody else, most of these aren't even going to hit the radar screen of the big boys Now, you had the Food Nutrition Service for $24 million. That probably did. But the rest of the contracts were splitting up the other $24 million. The rest of the 36 contracts for the Food and Nutrition Service, some of those are going to be under the radar opportunities. And they could be yours, as a matter of fact. So there's 24 agencies that have over $100 million. 70 agencies with over $10 million. This happens to be in IT security. 118 agencies over $1 million. These are rivaling your Fortune 500 companies, every one of those, right? So what about the competition? What's happening out there? If you're following me, this will blow your mind. The number of competitors in your space, in most industries, is less than 5 on most of the contracts. And take a look at this on both sides. First of all, we look at $7.75 billion. So 82% of the money was competed between 5 or less competitors. This is not FedBizOps land, is it? And of the number of contracts, 36,580, 84% of the contracts were competed with less than 5 competitors. This is important to know, because if we know that there are folks that are not putting it out on FedBizOps, and it may not be hitting GSA eBuy, where are they? Where are these contracts? They don't hit FBO, don't hit GSA eBuy, and they're not bought on GSA Advantage, and they're not made publicly available as you would think they are. Because under the radar winnable opportunities are not opportunity driven. That means if you're monitoring for opportunities on FedBizOps, on GSA, I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that you're not going to win because of that. You're going to win by getting ahead of when they post to FedBizOps or GSA eBuy. That's how you win. And it is a business development relationship model, not a monitoring model, and churn and burn out the bids. Not that you don't churn and burn out bids. You're going to need that. You're going to need to do your responses, and because that's part of your strategy too. You need to get in front of those people, and sometimes the only way you're going to get in front of those people is to respond. I'm not saying don't respond, especially if you don't have any business. You better be responding. But people buy from people they like, and they can't possibly like you if they don't know you. And your job is to get out there, find them, and get them to like you. And who are they? This is, again, the who that matters to you. And these are the people that are responsible for purchasing in your space. Here we have a guy, Don Wheatley. 4.5, this is the people that are buying what you sell. Matthew Butcher, $1.7 million a year. $1.7 million a year, folks. Plenty of money there. And look, 21 contracts. The largest contract was $1 million, which left 20 contracts to be split by $771,000. That means that almost all of those are under the radar opportunities. The $1 million one, maybe. Okay. Now we're going to talk about your competition's best customers. This is my favorite thing of everything that we do to find information. If we know what our most formidable competitors are doing, and we know the contacts that are buying from our most formidable competitors, here we have Brenda, who bought $387,000. Let's just assume that it was from your primary competitor. Would you want to know who Brenda is? Sure you would, for 2 reasons. One, it could be that you see something come out with Brenda's name on it, you know that your competitor is deep in that account. Or it could be that you want to just go and start wreaking havoc and being a disruptor in their account, which is what I like to do. And oh, by the way, we have different agencies, Bureau of Land Management, most people don't concentrate on them, and we have their phone numbers and email addresses so that we can market to them. This is the research that's necessary in step one to get smart about your marketplace so that you can dedicate the resources that are necessary to go after these people. This is what we use every single time. This is the who that matters to you. Now, you have a choice. What are you going to do if you know? You're going to let them keep putting your tax dollars in your competitor's bank, or are you going to go get them? I'm all about going to get them. We can spend our time churning and burning through bids, or we can go strategically after the people that we know are buying from our competitors. This is a target-rich environment. It is a relationship-based, go get them, keep on those people. They have targets on their heads, their backs, their shoes, and they don't lose their targets unless they retire or die. That's my motto. We stay after them and stay after them and stay after them until we win or they die or retire. One way or the other, we are not going away because these people are responsible for spending millions of dollars. Any questions about this? That was a long way to go before questions, and I apologize for that. Any questions about this? There's Jamie. Jamie, you're here. You got anything to add?
Hey, Dave. Yeah, I've actually been sitting in quiet for a while. I started the conference call about 5 minutes in. From behind the wheel of my automobile, so I was doing a driving version of listening to your program here. But you know, you really hit the nail on the head. I mean, you got to find out, work backwards from your competition or forwards by knowing if you need a roadmap. You know, if you're going to go fishing, you can go cast a line in the water, but if you're going to do well and you're going fishing, you need a fish finder. And the intelligence report is what gives you it tells you where the fish are. It tells you where the people are that are buying what you sell, and that is exactly where you need to be going and developing those relationships, because they don't happen on their own, and you can fire away at bid responses, but relationships are the most important component.
Yep, I appreciate that. So, welcome. Sorry I missed you coming in. We had some trouble with the phones. I'm not exactly sure what the heck happened with that, so hopefully everybody's still there. Question is, will this presentation be made available? Yes, it will. It's recorded, and we're also we'll send the slides out, and you can, if you don't get them, just email me and I'll make sure that you get them. How do you find these people? Great question, Sarah. Great question. We'll talk about that in just a minute. And let's see, will it be made available? Yep, I think that's about it. So I'm going to keep rolling through this. In fact, we're going to talk about how you find these people right now. Federal Marketing Essentials Package is how we do this. This is our product that we've developed. It is proprietary to what we have, and our clients have proprietary information as a result. And this is the information that we were just reviewing. It gives you the key contacts who buy your stuff, your competitors' contacts. God, I love that side of it. Under the radar contracts, breaking down of agency spending, so that you know who you should be going after, the primes and their contacts. The people are actually buying from the primes. And the interesting thing about this is this gives you the ability to be able to go to the buyer that's paying the prime and get a great referral, potentially, because you know that if they're doing work with Deloitte and you'd like to do some work with Deloitte, don't recommend that necessarily, but if you want to do some work with a major prime, the best way to get in there is not to do it by going to the industry days and signing up to their databases. If you've done that, you know what the results are. They're zero. You need to get in under the tent somehow. And one of the best ways that we've found is going to the buyer and saying, who do you know? And the people that they know are the program managers internally with the major primes, and those are the people that are responsible for executing work. And if the person that's referring you is the person that's writing them checks and contracts, are they going to listen to that referral? Most likely. And there's ways to be able to fabricate those referrals being totally legitimate. A legitimate referral that you can fabricate. So you're responsible for it. There's secrets to that, and we can talk about those another day. But today, we're just talking about this with step one, getting yourself ready. The recommended action steps for your company so that you know, essentially, like Jamie just said, the roadmap of what's necessary in order for you to be able to get to where you go. And when you mention this webinar, you save $505. It's regularly $4,500. Nothing cheap or easy or fast about the government, but this is definitely much cheaper than spending the next 18 months trying to find these, or 24 months trying to find these people that you will never know. You will never know all these folks because you don't know where to look. I know because when I got into this, I was like, where is it? Where are they? What about Input? I tried Input. What about Centurion? Now, both of those are GovWin, right? You're looking at those. Where are the people? They aren't on there because their contracts that they're going after are $500,000 and above. And a lot of those don't even get tracked if they're over until they're over $1 million. So they're missing all the stuff that's best for small business and charging an exorbitant amount of money to do that. You know, $10, $12, $14,000 a year. Not saying that you can't use it. I'm saying that that's not usually your sweet spot. So that's what we're talking about, getting those folks that are there. And I'm going to tell you about a couple of folks. First of all, William Scotsman, #1 in their category in the federal government. And they came to us and said, we want to get more business. And I said, okay. And they saw the names. They saw the names. They saw the emails. They saw the phone numbers that we get. They said, we just want them. And I said, okay, but I'm going to give you the whole enchilada anyway. And so we did. And it gave them so much clarity into the marketplace that they shifted their strategic vision and started to team up with 8As because they saw where they were losing their business to 8As. So they changed their strategic focus because of that. And as a result, they're going to increase. They're already #1. They're just going to increase their market share and continue to pummel their competitors. Same thing with Link Services, where we find things they can't find on their own. Simple fact. Link Services, I believe they're number 224 in Inc. 500 this year. Last year they were 300 or 299, and this year they're 224. A great company, have a really interesting business model. You can check them out as well. So again, with this, your key contacts who buy your stuff, your competitors' contacts, under the radar contracts, breaking down of agency spending, the primes in their contracts, and recommended action steps. This is the best way that you can do this. Another shout out from one of our clients, Steady Networks, gave them exactly what they needed in order to figure that out. William Scotsman again. Now, here's the deal. There's $420+ billion that is going to be spent in the next 286 days. And there's $920 billion in the next, that's 2 years. That's the 2-year model by the next September. You've got to get in, get moving to start winning. If you're going to sit on the sidelines, you are going to be one of the 80% that fail. That's just a fact. You've got to get in and start moving. The other way that we operate is we do business development. We don't just stop with telling you where it is. The other part has to do with dedicating those resources. You have got to dedicate the resources necessary in order to penetrate this marketplace. If you don't, you will not effectively win. So those business development services, Jamie, again, giving a shout out to Jamie. Thanks for being with us, Jamie. Sorry about that. And wait a minute, we do have a question. In our market, the big guys, Hal, hang on a second, Hal. Can I unmute you? This is a good one. Are you there? I just sent you an audio pin. I think you're on the phone. Man, I'd love to hear about this. Hal talks about in our market, the big guys are setting their schedules aside to avoid TAA requirements. Very interesting thing. You're absolutely right. And we just were up against that with soup. Everything had to be TAA compliant for the main pieces, and all the components are supposed to be TAA compliant too. But you're absolutely right. In order to skirt, if you don't know what TAA requirements are, Jamie, you can jump in here too. But TAA requirements are that you cannot be supplying from one of the bad countries. And one of the bad countries is China. So you can't be supplying product from China. And as a result, Hal, did you get there yet? Man, I'd love to talk with you about this.
Here.
Oh, good deal. Hal, sorry about that. Tell us, first of all, Hal, who are you with and what do you do?
I work for a small textile company, work primarily with the military and the VAs.
All right. And what do you supply? What's the name of your company?
Phoenix Textile.
Phoenix.
Yep.
And tell us about
We're just seeing.
Go ahead.
Okay, we're just seeing more and more of the quantity of products on the GSA schedule of theirs. You know, we get that GSA report, and it shows that their GSA contracts are just dwindling down to virtually nothing, and it's all to avoid TAA compliance, and they're getting away with it.
Sure.
They're selling.
Yes, because a lot of the stuff is not going GSA. Some of that's GSA brought on by GSA, right? Because
Right.
they've caused their own problems by not being effective as an agency. Quite frankly, I mean, you now have relatively no access to people through trade shows or anything because GSA jacked it up, right? So you have that
Right.
problem. So you have to get out in front of the people somehow, and now they're not coming to anything because they've restricted that, and then with sequestration that restricted the travel. A lot of the travel for that went down. So even if you are there, they're not coming. So there's pieces of that are happening. But to your point, does it matter to you whether or not it goes on GSA for you?
It does to me, yeah. I mean, it does to the customer. Yeah, originally, everything is, when they put the bids out, it's put out that it has to be on GSA, has to be TAA compliant, but then they will award to a company that is not on GSA. And a lot of the products, you go back in and look afterwards, they're not TAA compliant products, but they're a lot cheaper.
That's a
So
fact.
you know, it's that one key that the government customer needs right now is cheaper is better for them right now.
That's true.
And they will skirt the TAA compliance if they can get that GSA. You know, if they can get that much cheaper.
So how do you see getting around that? What's your strategy for getting around it?
Right now, we pointed out to them. We pointed out, you know, this is not a TAA compliant product.
And what do they say?
Well, yeah, but you know, it saves us a lot of money.
And they actually say that to you?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. They don't put that in emails, do they?
I wish they did. I'd be forwarding those emails.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
we've complained about it. We've complained to you know, you got to be careful about complaining because you can shoot yourself in the foot for everybody else, everything else that you are doing. You know.
Yeah, it's not sometimes not even in the foot, sometimes in the head. Shoot yourself in the head.
Yeah.
And that's why protests are so very delicate. Because essentially you're telling the contracting officer that they screwed up, right? When there's a protest. Right. And that makes it is a very challenging thing. I think you're spot on with that. Would it be possible for you to provide the same product?
Oh yeah, yeah. And sometimes we will have them come to us and say, "Can you give me this product? I don't have to have it on contract," which basically means I don't have to have a TAA compliant. And they'll want it. So they're saying, you know, don't put it on, you know, I don't want your GSA product. I don't want your TAA compliant product. I want your cheapest product.
Yeah, but they would have to do that. They would have to do that over the phone, right? Because they're not going to do that in writing.
No, oh no, they'll tell you that or in person.
Yeah, in person. No. Yeah, Heather also has the same thing that she says. I was told if I wanted to see a change that I would have to turn in all the contracting officers that they allowed non-TAA compliant items. Yada yada yada. That's it's so.
He's exactly right.
Yeah, and that is a challenge, and we see. I don't think that it's. I don't know what you do, Heather. Probably not textiles. What do you do, Heather? You can type that in. She doesn't have a microphone. I can't even unmute her so we could talk. But yeah, she could tell me what she does. But yeah, AV products. Yeah, absolutely. How many AV products are out there that are made in a Now, obviously, you got a lot of things it'd be Korean, right? Or it'd be South Korean that you would find those things. Very challenging, and even then, you know that some of the TAA pieces that are some of the TAA are being skirted, right? Because it's a lot of stuff's happening in China anyway. They're going through Taiwan and getting a sticker, right? So those are the types of things that are happening.
Taiwan became Trade Act compliant a couple of years ago. And another thing, too, that happens is the companies will source core components that come from a country like China, which is not TAA compliant country, and then they'll bring them into the United States or into a country that is TAA compliant, assemble those components into a final piece, and then from that offer a product that, although the components might have come from China, is in fact TAA compliant. So looking for creative workarounds has been an objective with some of our clients as well as they're navigating through GSA and TAA limitations.
Yep. And also knowing, here's another one from Heather. You can go on to GSA Advantage and see all the China-made items that are on from the big companies, and that's true. And it's very challenging because smaller companies have a hard time getting anything that's not TAA compliant because you actually have to sign your name to it to say that it's TAA compliant, right? And then then it's like they could come after you, and the chances are that they're somewhere along the line somebody's going to get torqued enough to challenge it. But nobody wants to be that sacrificial lamb, right? I mean, you don't want to sacrifice all your business. And I guess it just comes down to then even though if you get that one contracting officer, believe me, if you turn in one contracting officer, every one of their buddies is going to know that you did it. And it's just like the stop snitching campaigns, right? It's like, how in the world? How do you compete with that? So I'm with you on those things. And skirting it is a very big challenge to be able to compete against those things. And you know, some of that could be a lobbying effort potentially that would take you off of the hook for that. The lobbying efforts are very expensive. It would probably need to be some sort of an organization that did it as opposed to an individual, maybe a small business organization. And I'll talk with some folks about that because it is just, you know, to know that, and I've had this happen, I know you guys have had it happen too, where you know the folks are breaking the rules. You know they are. I lost something that was completely baked for us. We worked it for 6 months. And there was no way that they could meet the minimum mandatory requirements. They could not make it, but they said they could. And because we didn't ask for copies of their certification, there was no way to know. And we didn't ask for it in the questions either. And that was a problem. And I learned a lot. I learned a lot about questions and answers in the RFP, and it wound up being it was $6.2 million, $6.2 million that we lost as a result of that. But they lied. They literally just said they could do something. They had something that they didn't have. Same thing with TAA compliance. And it's tough. And Hal, I commend you for doing what you do, and especially in the textile industry. Very challenging world, isn't it? Very challenging. So anyhow, I appreciate that. We can talk a little bit more about that. Jamie, give us a send-off for your stuff and a dose. I know we had some GSA schedules that were supposed to be closing down that aren't now. So tell us about those and if and what you think should happen.
Yeah, they had earlier in the year had slated four plus schedules for shutting down. They were supposed to happen in the October timeframe, tail into September, October. That didn't happen. Those schedules are still open. The full grid of schedules is open. So if you're looking to use a purchasing vehicle like the GSA schedule as a way to be able to bring your products and services to the table for the federal government, we can certainly help you with that. If you already have a GSA schedule, want to make changes to it, want to make sure it's current, want to take advantage of making economic price adjustments, we can help you with that as well. Certainly feel free to give me a call or send me an email. Any questions at all about that, we can certainly help you out there. Love to help with your GSA schedule needs. use that schedule as a direct purchasing vehicle and also as a credential. You want it on your website, on your business cards, on your literature, and even if you're selling to NASA or to Navy Seaport or somebody that doesn't buy off GSA schedule, when you have a GSA schedule, it proves that you've been through the process. It shows that you have good past performance, quality products and services.
And like you said, they might not even use it. Same thing with you, Hal. Is that you wind up you'll wind up making more sales outside of that GSA stuff because it can't be listed there, and getting the, I hate to say it, but get the sale, get the doggone sale, and because that's what's going to keep you in business. So here's the deal: if you're not willing to invest the appropriate time and resources, I say stop. Stop what you're doing, even now, even though that you've done all your GSA stuff. Just stop. Just concentrate on that. Here's what I was talking about earlier. The average successful contractor that sells more than $2.5 million annually invested $150,000 per year in the first 2 years. This is not me. I'm not making this stuff up. We looked at 22 different companies and did the average, and some of those were over that, but it was right in that pocket where with that. And there's a budget resource allocation worksheet that shows that. So if you are, let's go. You can get your business going. A lot of that set aside for small business. 315 days left until September 30th, and 680 days till September 30th, 215. These are the deadlines that you're up against. Again, there's stuff for GSA proposal, Revolution. Reach out to these guys. If you're doing anything with credit cards, next webinar we're going to do January 21st. It'll be the first one of the new year, and the rest of the 12 steps, steps 6 through 12, dealing with that so that you can be successful. Man, I love this picture. Just love it. This is my new favorite picture. And for everybody, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Can you believe that we're almost at 2014? I guess the older I get, and it seems like I'm picking up speed going down that hill. But yeah, I tell you what, man, it's just like these years are just cranking. It's like, my gosh, it's unbelievably fast. So Merry Christmas to everybody. And again, thanks for joining us. Our next session will not be December 17th. Whoever did this program set this up is not right. Whatever I said before, the third Tuesday in January, where it is. There's our contact information. Feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you, and we could talk about these in particular, the particulars again, some more if you need to. So thanks for joining us. Great having you, and have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Jamie, thanks. Have a great time.